So hello and welcome to this short update on TDW-Live, the kind of developments and the stuff that you can be learning this year. So I'm Michael Ingledew. I'm all about making you successful with your integrated product support strategies. Now this year at TDW-Live we are very much focusing on integrated product support. Why? Because all of the major players in the market right now are talking about the integrated product support, and traditionally we focused on just S1000D, structured documentation, that kind of stuff, but now we're actually broadening the event itself. So what can you expect? Well, I'll put some nice imagery over the top of me as I'm talking. So firstly, we have a company called Vertical Aerospace who are based in Bristol, who are embracing S1000D and the essence of S1000D, and they're going to be talking about how their new platform that has been announced, go follow them on LinkedIn and go and have a Google. You'll find some really interesting articles around what these guys are up to. They are going to be talking about how they are adopting and embracing the structures within S1000D and how they're aligning it to their engineering developments and some of the things, some of the challenges that we had, and how the S1000D steering committee had to work with the guys at Vertical Aerospace. So a huge thank you to Ethan and to Jim who are supporting this. We're going to go to your facilities and we're going to try and put some goodness behind us so it looks a little bit tasty, but you're going to learn from these guys how they are embracing things like S1000D. I'm then going to travel up to a company called AMRC, and they are based up in the north of England in Sheffield, and they are going to be talking about how they are embracing augmented reality, but how they are also putting S1000D content into that environment. So they have a complete augmented reality cell up there. You've been super supportive. Anthony and the guys up at AMRC, thank you so much for your support, and I'm looking forward to coming up and seeing the environment that you guys have developed. Thank you to PTC and GPSL who have made this happen. So we have worked with them to bring you the most educational presentation we can. So again, if you're interested in augmented reality and you're interested in structured information, how can we put that together? We might even throw in a little bit of engineering discussions as well, and how these guys are rolling in that in IPS and digital twin kind of discussions. I'm also going to be sat with SDL. SDL, we are going to meet at the REMI Museum in Lynham. We're going to be talking about how they support organisations develop cost-effective, flexible IETPs, S1000D IETPs, but we've got some niceness to talk about as well. So thank you to Bob Hogue and to Lewis that have made that possible. Thank you to all of the guys on the S-Series communities. You've given up your time to give presentations. Now, this is a call out to you, the community. If you have a question for any of these S-Series presentations or for any of these S-Series groups, get them into us, because we are going to have these guys all together who are going to be able to answer your questions around what the S-Series is, why it's doing it, individual specifications therein, how they're going to talk to each other, how we're going to have this. I've coined this phrase of design to decommission, and everything in between is going to be the S-Series specifications. So get your questions in, because we are going to have them there and we can actually talk to them. So check out the agenda online. You'll see which days are appropriate to you and which ones you're interested in. Lastly, I'm going to leave you with Kieran and Berry. I'm going to be meeting Kieran at the British Motor Museum in a couple of weeks. Thank you to the REMI Museum, the British Motor Museum, the Battle of Britain Memorial Flight, AMRC, Vertical Aerospace for opening up your facilities for us to try and make this something a little bit new, a little bit fresh, that we can actually come in and do something in your environment. I think it'll look great. But I'll leave you with Berry and with Kieran, who are going to talk about how language matters, and they are talking about controlled language, simplified technical English, and how it could affect a Formula One team, and how tenths of a second can be the difference, as I think as Berry put it, between first and last. We're going to go to the British Motor Museum. We're going to record your presentation, and I know that you are going to put a motoring slant on your presentation. So maybe if you guys give me a little bit of a feel for what people can learn from you, and you know, what the kind of essence of your presentation.
I think for us, we have looked at the importance of content as a business asset, but in particularly how STE fits into that concept, and inspired by the British Motor Museum, and also because it's an industry like aerospace and defence, which is high technology, high data, and has to adapt to lots of different conditions. We decided to imagine the use case for STE in Formula One. So that's what a broad description of what we're going to be talking about.
So the idea is to show how language, I mean, I think I mentioned it to you the other day, is that I'm supporting a customer where they are trying to standardize on language from product concept or design all the way up through provisioning, all the way up through into tech pubs, and then out into training. So there's commonality in language, commonality in terms and definitions. And, you know, I think you're right in terms of, you know, we are now seeing more that organizations are taking content much more seriously.
Well, you know, now we actually still have to see the day where you do have a CCO in the company, so a content chief executive, or however you want to spell it, acronym. But it is right. So companies big enterprises are taking content more serious, realizing that it's a very significant part of the customer experience. So it's about having one voice towards your customers. It's about aligning your global writing team, which is happening more these days, so that it doesn't really matter whether something is written in India or the United States or here in Europe. Making your content much easier to find, much easier to understand, will improve that customer experience. And in the end, if you take it to something like F1, Formula One, then you will see that, you know, if you want to win a race in F1, then all the tiny little greedy little details will matter, and content actually plays an extremely important part in it.
I mean, in Formula One, the margins are tiny, right? I mean, we're talking about, you know, tenths of a second, thousandths of a second between the car in front. But last race that there was 5 or 6 retires, though? There was quite a lot of mechanical failures, wasn't there? Hopefully not language related. So I think
that is an important question. You know, was it language related? I mean, you're going to have to take all of those things into consideration. I mean, whenever the pit stop is there, your crew is there, they better be ready. They better have clear instructions so that they know exactly what to do and what not to do. So, because it could mean that 1/10 of a second, and therefore you're now number 2 or 3 or last.
Exactly, so, and it's a constant changing environment, F1, right? And we're talking about tiniest of changes to platform has a massive impact on how the vehicle performs. So, so the information, the design data, the maintenance data, the installation data, all this kind of stuff, the driver data needs to be current. And so I think it's important that we say that we're talking from a hypothetical, we're kind of putting this together. I know that Kieran, you've done some studying and looking at some, you found some reading material around that, which I guess you'll reference as well. But we're not saying we are affiliated with any Formula One team here. We're just saying, look, if this was to happen in Formula One, and we're assuming it does, this is kind of the impact that language would have.
I was just going to say it's more we're imagining, and I think the other element that I think is an interesting additional angle, which Formula One brings out really well, is that the success of STE is also to a certain extent about the culture of your organization. And when you're implementing STE, it's about aligning all the various and complex departments and parts of the organization that support these platforms. And I think STE using Formula One is a fabulous example, because you know, when you look at all of the teams, that's what they talk about themselves as teams, and how all parts of the organization, from design to aerodynamics to the mechanics to the software people, all have to work together and communicate frequently. So I think it's also useful because STE is a particular form of communication, but it's a much bigger part of a wider corporate or organizational culture that you need to make your content successful.
But I'm really looking forward to this. I think it'll be a good, it'll be a great presentation. I know that we're going to go and hopefully get some motor car goodness behind us in a couple of weeks' time. So looking forward to it. So yeah, I think it'll be a great presentation. I think, you know, if we can have some motor sport type footage with us as well. It's a slightly different slant on the traditional presentations we have around STE. We're actually trying to put some use cases on it now, and we're trying to put it into a workflow, into a kind of organizational environment. So I think it'll be great. So looking forward to doing it. I'll see you both, Barry, virtually in a couple of weeks, and Kieran, I'll see you at BMM in a couple of weeks.
Brilliant.
Look forward to it.
Cheers, guys.
Thanks, Mike.
Cheers.